It was 1959. In early March of that year, the best teams from 12 countries met in Prague, Czechoslovakia to face off for the World Hockey Championships. Canada's hopes rested with these men, a team from Belleville, Ontario, a small Canadian town that grew hockey players back in the 1950s and 60s. They were called the Belleville McFarlands, after the team owner, H.J. McFarland, a wealthy industrialist and avid hockey fan from nearby Picton. He paid the bills that brought together a team of local farm boys, promising rookies, and hardened hockey veterans. They were the pride of hockey fans in the Belleville area. Keith McDonald of Picton was a member of the team.
I can remember in the playoffs, like my telephone would ring, "Can I get a ticket? You got a ticket for me?" I mean, it was packed here. Belleville and the area had never had, I guess, that caliber of hockey before, and the people just fell in love with it. It was that type of game.
Belleville has always been a hockey town, and there were earlier hockey teams in the city. But it was the formation of a new Senior A hockey league in the mid-1950s that was the beginning of the McFarland era. Ren Blair of the Whitby Dunlops urged Belleville to form a team to strengthen the league.
We were trying to go Senior A, and we'd gone Senior A the year before with Whitby. So I said to Drury Dennis, I said, "Drury, you gotta come in." And he said, "I can't find players like you can, Ren." I said, "I'll tell you what, I don't need any players in Whitby, hardly at all." I said, "If you give me your promise that you will vote for going Senior A, I'll put your team together too," which I did.
Blair worked closely with Drury Denys, the general manager of the McFarlands, to recruit players from across Canada. It was the beginning of an intense rivalry between the two teams that could often erupt into brawls on the ice.
Well, we always had a challenging time against them. That was always a tough game. I never really liked to go into their arena because they were always very physical. It was always a tough game before we got out of there.
Belleville McFarland had a very, very good hockey club, and each time we played them, it was a battle to the finish.
You get a penalty, and of all things, to have the same combatants that are on the ice sitting in the same penalty box, you're asking for trouble.
Floyd came to our bench, and he looked up and he said, "Who got that penalty with me?" There was a double penalty. And I can't remember who it was then, but Floyd said, "You just look after that other chap, and I'll look after Sendon." And it was quite a scrap.
The thing that sticks out with me, as I say, is the old police gentleman by the name of Bill Evans was down in the hallway where the fights commenced after leaving the bench, and he kept telling us in high English accent, "Now, chappies, that's enough of that. Now, please, be gentlemen." And we're fighting for our lives down in the hallway. But that was kind of funny.
And yet, even after the toughest of games, players from both teams would meet with their fans for a few beers in the Queen's Hotel, just 99 steps from the Belleville Arena.
After games were over, you'd see those guys, and they were like your brother. It was over, the game was over, and they'd come in and have a beer with you or whatever. But the next night, if you played them, they'd be right back to defend their team.
The Belleville McFarlands just got better and better. As the 1958 season opened, they boasted a high-scoring offense led by player-coach Bep Gwydland, the youngest player ever to start in the NHL. Gwydland played for the Boston Bruins at age 16. Wayne Wiener Brown was another Boston player that came back home to join the McFarlands. They had speed and scoring punch, a tough defense, and a seasoned goaltender named Gordie Bell.
I think you have to start in net with Gordie Bell, and to a man, any of the Macs you talk about will tell you it was not possible without Gordie Bell in net. He had NHL experience with the Rangers and the Maple Leafs, and in the American League with several teams, and He was the linchpin right in starting in goal.
Gordy's a little bit ahead of his time because if he were playing today with the shootouts, there's no better goaltender in hockey on a breakaway than Gordy Bell. Even today, he just had that magic. He knew where the puck was. And
these guys heap all kinds of accolades on him and talk about what a wonderful goaltender he was and how important he was. And the first thing that always strikes me about that is he wouldn't be at all comfortable with it. My father was such a believer in the team thing, and it was always team first. That he wouldn't have bought any of this stuff that Floyd and Wiener and David Jones and those guys are so ready to heap on him. He wouldn't buy into that. But very quiet, very unassuming man.
They were talented, tough, and unstoppable. As the 1958 season wore on, the McFarlands were becoming a championship team, surprising themselves, their fans, and team sponsor Harvey McFarland.
He really loved the hockey players. He always called them his boys, and I think he would do anything for them, and I think they returned. They would do anything for him. And I think they played over their heads. I think there were other, better quality teams out there with better hockey players, but they had the determination and the will to win.
They were such individuals. They weren't all one nationality or one temperament. They were a real mixture of United Nations, I used to call them. Yet they worked together beautifully. They never knew when they were behind and gave up in a game. They kept fighting right to the very last minute.
Their home rink was the Memorial Arena in downtown Belleville.
The closeness of the Belleville fan to the players was fantastic. They were like a seventh man on the ice. I guess that's the best way I could describe it. That gave you a great inspiration to play. And so I'm going to say that was one of the reasons why we achieved maybe more than what we had in other towns or whatever we played in.
On game nights, the Memorial was packed, noisy, smoky, and cold, but nobody cared. Their rabid fans lined up for hours to get into the 9 o'clock Friday night game. The team was so popular, there was a shortage of babysitters in Belleville and surrounding communities.
We were there quite frequently, and it was always a little problem getting babysitters because the people who went to the games were all our age and all had small families, so you had to line up your babysitter more or less for the winter. But the games were so exciting.
Everyone from Front Street, all the merchants, would just rush down there. We'd all rush down together, and you'd have your tickets, of course, ahead of time because you were season's ticket holders. And we still had to line up to get through the door because it would be so crowded to get in.
And back in those days, of course, by the third period, the smoke was so thick you could barely see across the ice. But it was just an exciting time. I used to be so revved up before I went to the game. It was unbelievable.
In 1958, the teams swept through their season, winning the Ontario Championship. Next, they traveled to British Columbia to face off against the Kelowna Packers for the Allen Cup, the ultimate trophy in Canadian Senior A hockey. It would turn out to be one of the most memorable hockey playoffs of all time. Belleville won the first game, but they were trounced 6-0 in the second, and they lost the next two. They were now down 3-1 against a determined Kelowna team sensing a championship victory. And they were injured. Star forward Davy Jones broke his neck in one of the first games.
Well, I was standing in front of the net and looking to score a goal. They were trying to do what you do, and I couldn't even tell you who could. Somebody cross-checked me from behind on the neck. And down I went, and the big pile up, and when everybody got off, I couldn't move my head. That was scary.
We had other injuries too. Joe Lepine was out. We were down to quite a skeleton crew by Game 7. For me, and I remember normally was quiet in the dressing room, but I remember that I talked it up quite a bit. And the goal for me was to go to Europe.
Back home in Belleville, their fans were worried and sleepless, listening to late-night broadcasts of the games from CJBQ sports broadcaster Jack Devine.
Over on the far side, Wiener Brown has it. Centers it in front, and Bradley scores! Bradley for Brown, and it's all tied up.
They poured out their encouragement and hockey advice in an avalanche of telegrams to the team, and the McFarlands fought back from almost certain defeat to capture the Allen Cup.
We knew deep down in our hearts so that we possibly had every bit as good a team as Kelowna, and Kelowna had a very good club. I think it was just that the guys getting together realistically and saying, hey, enough of this playing around, let's get down to facts. One thing led to another. We won a game, made it 3-2, and then we tied the series up and went into a 7th game, and read all about it.
My dad was pretty cool under pressure. I think the only time he told me that he showed pressure was he actually walked out of the arena and took a little walk down the main street of Kelowna during the last game when they won the Allen Cup. And he said it was a ghost town, and he heard the buzzer go, and he knew that Belleville won the Allen Cup. But he actually wasn't even in the arena when it happened. He was catching his breath outside.
Well, in Belleville, the citizens, everybody was up listening to the radio, and for some reason or other, some magnetic force drew hundreds downtown and were celebrating. And I recall that they had a big pile of old railway ties and logs and things, and they at the what was then called the Four Corners, the junction of Front Street and Bridge Street. And of course this was touched off, and there was a huge bonfire there, and it melted the asphalt, and there was a whopping big hole.
When we got down there, they had all these bonfires going down there, and everybody was cheering and dancing and hollering, and because we had won. And we were the underdogs, and we had won.
When the McFarlands arrived home, Belleville went crazy. Thousands of fans lined the city's main street to welcome them back.
Everybody here had their radios on in the middle of the night and making that big comeback, so it was a huge thing. And only a few days later, we're having the parade. So most of the pictures that you see, especially if you see ones where the players were wearing 10-gallon hats, you know those were Kelowna pictures on Main Street.
Winning the Allen Cup was the team's ticket to the World Hockey Championships in Prague, Czechoslovakia, 1 year later. They strengthened the team by adding players, including rookie Red Berenson, a future NHLer. The McFarlands played a grueling exhibition schedule during the first weeks of their European tour. It was designed to raise funds to help pay for the costs, and their physical style drew complaints from European teams and their fans.
We had a little trouble in Finland. Well, we had a little trouble with the referee, that's what we had. And the outdoor rink, and they're throwing ice balls at you, not snowballs at you. And we come out on the bus, and they wouldn't let the bus leave, so they had to start the bus and push them out of the road. And that night we stayed up all night on the second floor and played cards above the stairs just to protect ourselves, see what was going on.
I know the first time they played the Czechs in the preliminary round, they beat them, and it was really a rough game. And we had a group of soldiers sitting down in front of us, and they kept turning around and shaking their fists at us, and we were hoping we'd get out of there alive. They didn't like it too much.
The exhibition games left the team banged up and tired even before they began their World Championship. Still, the mighty McFarlands scored decisive victories, using their speed, scoring, and roughhouse play to dominate opposing teams. It was the era of the Cold War, and the games were about politics as much as hockey.
We were constantly under surveillance. Didn't matter if you went one guy or 101 guys. Their Secret Service people were everywhere. So that's a little upsetting. But it just made us more determined. You know, they're not going to try and make us wimp out or anything like that. No, we won't do that.
They had someone stationed on the floor of our hotel. They watched every movie made. And the ordinary citizens had to be very, very careful not to get too friendly with us.
Puck taken by Boyd Crawford. He gets it up on the left side to Wiener Brown, a pass to Bradley. Bradley with Hildebrand, one man back, up over the line. Give it to Hildebrand, he shoots, a goal! Hildebrand for Bradley! Man, oh man, oh man!
Back then, you know, there was that friction between Russia and Canada. Russia was certainly building their hockey club, getting better, scouting Canadian teams, etc. And they were the ones that we had to beat. And Canadians did it, 3-1.
They could play the body contact game, and very few teams in those days could. We were thought of as rowdies in Europe because of the way we played.
The exhausted McFarlands lost their last game to the Czech team 5-3. It was their only defeat, but by then the loss was meaningless. Their gritty play had already clinched the world title.
We played for Canada. We didn't want to disappoint ourselves, and we didn't want to disappoint Canada. Because we were told by the few people that think they know everything that we weren't going to win. Well, that made it all the better for us. We can show them.
Well, everybody pulled together. It was a team effort. It was a team effort. I don't think there's any one particular reason. I think everybody pulled together, and we were playing for Canada, and I think that it was a very meaningful thing to all of them.
Some players made a stormy crossing home by boat. When people on board found out they were world champions, the McFarlands got to party.
I mean, let's face it, the team liked to party, and they did well to win. They did. But they were a determined bunch. They took their game seriously, and they really worked at it.
I remember a bunch of us went up to the main first class deck. You know, how we made it that far without getting chased back down into the portholes, I don't know. Because we were so low, and we said, we're so low in the boat, if we go any lower, we'll get bends. We were way down. I remember we thought we were dressed pretty sharp. We had on our Canada blazer, you know. People kept asking us which way to their seat. They thought we were ushers. that really, we still laugh about that one.
And when the team arrived back home, Belleville went crazy again.
It was a big thing then. You know, they won the Allen Cup, winning the World Cup. I can't imagine how many people were here lined the streets for that parade. It was incredible.
You couldn't move, you couldn't breathe sideways for people. And when they come through from the CN, 50,000 people on the street, but it was just unbelievable.
We come back, you know, you couldn't get a car down Front Street. That's how packed the people were. Shaking hands, and, you know, 50,000 people, and well, we couldn't believe that that many people were going to be there.
There were never again seasons like the 1958-59 years. The McFarlands fell from grace, folding in controversy, when an audit of the city's finances showed the team had racked up a deficit of more than $100,000, which taxpayers would have to repay.
Everybody in the area knew they were being paid some way or other, yet nobody did anything about it. And the poor boys, after, you know, they're no longer heroes, then this popped up. But for many years afterwards, some people say, we're still paying for those McFarlands. They forget about the advertising Belleville got and the excitement we got.
My father didn't play for the paycheck, but that was his livelihood. So, you know, and he had children. So, you know, let's not try and fool each other. He didn't come here to play pond hockey. He came here because he could feed his family.
Somebody had to pay the bills. These guys would have been professional hockey players. They'd be getting paid elsewhere if there were more NHL teams and more minor pro teams. So senior A hockey at the time, you're right, it was like a minor pro circuit, and the top teams paid their players. And the cities often would contribute, whether it was made public or not.
And I think that's why over the years, when they've talked about the Whitby Dunlops, Belleville's often not mentioned. And I think it stems from that, for, you know, not having the sign at the edge of town that says home of the world champion Belleville McFarlands that Whitby had. Yeah, I think the scandal had something to do with that.
I know the citizens of Belleville really liked the McFarlands. Again, it was strange how quickly a lot of them turned against the McFarlands when they found out that there was going to be a special levy. I know my father and I had to pay $16.05 a year for 5 years to repay what cost the McFarlands. I thought it was the best $16.05 a year that I'd ever spent in my life, because I had the enjoyment of the game.
The scandal was devastating for the McFarlands and Drury Deniers, their volunteer general manager. Deniers was also Belleville's administrator. He signed the checks the players received from the city. Keeping the winning team that Belleville wanted cost Deniers just about everything.
I know my dad went through a very, very rough time. It was tough. It was tough on my mother. It was certainly tough on my grandfather, his dad. He was very, very proud of his players. He loved those guys, and very proud of what he did for the city of Belleville. And I think it's, you know, we could be sitting here another 25 years from now talking about what a great part of the legacy of Belleville, the Belleville McFarlands were. So.
In the following years, the magic that was once the McFarlands abandoned them. Many players received bills from the Canadian government for unpaid taxes. High-scoring Minnie Menard and goaltender Gordie Bell sustained eye injuries that ended their careers. Although he tried playing with a mask, Bell would never regain his winning form.
He comes with this rudimentary piece of fiberglass and tries to play, and I think the first game back, it might have been against Kitchener, he let in 4 goals and they booed him out of the Memorial Arena, and you know, he learned pretty quick there's not a lot of value in a one-eyed goaltender. So, you know, that, which was kind of a sad end for him, because I mean, you know, he'd had such a wonderful career, and to leave like that, he went in, I guess, between periods, the first and second period, and took off his equipment and said.
Belleville is still a hockey town. It has a Junior A team, the Belleville Bulls, who regularly send a new generation of players into the big leagues. But over the decades, the McFarland legacy has endured. There are fewer of them now, but the remaining members of the 1958-59 team can still draw a crowd, and they are still warmly remembered by hockey fans everywhere.
One of the coaches that I had when I was playing overseas, he was about a 15, 16-year-old kid in Prague at the time, and he remembers the Belleville McFarlands because he was at the games. And then this was probably 30 years, 35 years after the fact, and he had nothing but unbelievable things to say about the McFarlands. He thought they were a fabulous hockey team.
They put Belleville on the map, I think. Or certainly they helped, because, you know, Belleville was not that big a place. I mean, it was amazing to think that a small place would have a team that good.
I know my grandfather said that it was one of his proudest moments in his life when the Belleville Macs defeated the Russian national team, and to see the Canadian flag raised up above the Russian. He just wished that all Canadians could have witnessed that.
You have no idea the feeling that it was when we won. Floyd Crawford got up on that stage with both the other team captains on each side of him, Never forget it. And they played "O Canada." I'm telling you something, makes cold chills go down your back. Really something I will never forget, never forget.
I could still get choked up over it. Just talking about it sometimes. And it's something just something you don't do very often, that's for sure. Particularly 50 years later, it doesn't seem possible, it's 50 years ago. But it's something that I have on my finger, and it's there every day. And that's something you don't forget.
You watch these guys even today, and their body language, it speaks to you of successful people. You know, there's real aura about guys who've had success because they carry themselves as winners, and they certainly do that. They enjoy the victory, and sometimes they enjoyed it a little too much, but they certainly did celebrate the game. They give back and are active members of our community, and they let you know that if you surround yourself with good people, good things happen. I think that you go around Belleville today, and certainly in Eastern Ontario and in this area, people remember, people celebrate the victory that they had, and I think the more and more you really think about it, people recognize, boy, what a tremendous accomplishment it was. And I just think there's so many great stories, side stories, that come from the McFarlands.
Almost spiritual. We started to find ourselves. We'd been on the road like Johnny Cash for many years, and these people took us to their hearts and gave us a sense of pride. From there, we started to believe in ourselves. And as I say, the camaraderie and the fellowship amongst the players was fantastic. I've often sat quietly and said, what made us tick? And that's what made us tick. It was the chemistry that was involved with that team. That was our day in the sun.